You bringing these down or up?
Rain held off for us again.
Leaving down for me.
Rain held off for us again. I'm so sad. I was sweating it out.
Pledge of
I know, but I thought
Allegiance.
we'd get windy and
How you doing, Mac?
How you doing, Mac? That's actually something I know that from my group camp days.
The 33 people.
Who's this kid here with the suit and the yellow tie?
Oh, I'm that myself.
We just elect them or something?
I don't think so. I don't got anybody new. Not in Easton. Walter.
He's shaking a lot of hands. He's got to be something.
Kids who left already before they graduated. And then
Oh, okay. Selected.
He is?
yeah.
Yeah, see, that's right.
You're right.
Yeah. Great.
actually two. He's the only one that
tennis pool yesterday.
Nice little channel.
We still had it.
Oh, it's really nice.
Pretty big, nice little
Especially when we hit right downtown.
I haven't seen mine in 50 years.
Tried last night to share that pose from our page on to the Everything Easton page.
I didn't see
Couldn't
it.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a member of Everything Eastern? Is our post a member of Everything?
I don't think so. But
Because if it's
usually-
not, it probably won't accept it.
Yeah, but our post isn't a member of Just for G. And I was able to post on that.
Yeah, but that's like the different rules for different
Yeah.
pages.
Yeah. But it would have been me posting, like forwarding. So I don't think.
Okay.
I don't think that stopped it. It was my personal account, but since I am.
Who
Who
knows?
knows? Who knows what random twang is put into.
They get temperamental.
Yeah. Plus, I was trying to go on my phone, so I probably didn't. All right. Walk your knees and shut your eyes.
Felt weird to
Get on that.
used to be up there. The Girl Scouts used to sit up front. Start the Pledge of
I'm going to
Allegiance.
move down there with the other guys.
All right.
It looks like this is just you guys here.
I think it's just flag folks. Yeah.
Well, I'll see you in a
All
while.
right. Well, I'll miss your company.
The rifles are usually over there. But we don't have the two enough fire.
Fine, lad. How are you? Nice to be able to see you.
Oh, my God.
How are you?
See ya.
Yeah, looking fine, lad.
Select board, elected officials, please fill in the seats here.
We're out of order. We're out of order. You guys go down. We all go down. Sure. There's one more over there. Go ahead.
Ed, how are you? Happy Veterans Day.
Campaign to be.
All right, everybody, please scoot in. We're going to start the ceremony here in a moment. Just want to give everyone time to get scooted in here. Can everyone hear me in the back? Can you hear me? All right, happy Veterans Day. So again, hello and welcome to the Town of Easton's 2022 Veterans Day Parade and Ceremony here at our beautiful Veterans Memorial Park in North Easton. Along with me hosting the ceremony, I have our two Veteran Service Organization commanders, Commander Teresa Pedico-Poole of the American Legion Post 7 and Commander Steve Shaw of the VFW Post 2547. Also in attendance, we have Senator Timilty's office, represented by District Director Ryan Mitchell, State Representative Carol Doherty, Select Board Chair Dottie Fulgenetti, Select Board Vice Chair Craig Barger, Select Board members Mark Lamb, Jamie Stebbins, and Jennifer Stacy. Also, a special welcome to our parade Grand Marshal and guest of honor, Stan Siegel. I'd like to also welcome all veterans in attendance today. We're so glad that you came out to support us, as well as our community members who support those veterans. Thank you all so much. In addition to those special guests, we also have our Boy Scouts and our Girl Scouts, whom I'd like to ask to stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great job. Now I'd like to please give a warm welcome to Pastor John Polk of the Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, who will give us the invocation.
Good morning. Let us pray. Holy and Almighty God, we remember and honor our veterans today who made the greatest sacrifice of all, their very lives, for us and for our freedom. And we pray for and lift up their families whose grief is mixed with profound sadness, yet undeniable pride. Let us pause for a moment to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. For our wounded veterans who live day in and day out with the scars of war simply because they love their country, we are forever grateful. Thank you for their bravery and their devotion to service. Let us pause for a moment to remember those who were wounded. Finally, Almighty God, we commend to your gracious care and keeping all the men and women who are currently serving our armed forces at home and abroad. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace. Strengthen them in their trials and temptations. Give them courage to face the perils that surround them, and grant them a sense of your abiding presence wherever they may be. For all our veterans, past, present, and those to come, we give thanks and commend to your care. May their dedication to freedom and peace be an inspiration to us all as we work together to create the beloved community. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Polk. It's now my pleasure to welcome Oliver Ames High School students Alexa Berman and Jessica Bradley to sing the national anthem. This is good.
Let me bring it down. Yeah. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof
is still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to welcome Select Board Member, Air Force Veteran Jamie Stebbins to read the 2022 proclamation.
A proclamation. Whereas since the Commonwealth's colonial days, thousands of men and women have served our country in defense of liberty and freedom. And whereas on November 11th, 1918, the armistice was signed in the forest of Champagne by the Allied nations in Germany, ending World War I, the war to end all wars. After 4 years of conflict, and whereas since that day, every November, people from around the nation have gathered to honor our veterans. And whereas since that day, every November, people from around the nation have gathered to honor our veterans twice. And whereas there are approximately 300,000 veterans living in Massachusetts, and whereas today we are reminded of the great sacrifices and contributions our veterans have made to our country. And whereas we honor and salute those who served our country throughout the generations with honor, patriotism, and courage. And whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who served their country, so that their dedication and sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. And whereas in November 2022, the world will commemorate the 104th anniversary of the armistice that ended the fighting in World War I at 11 a.m., November 11th, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Now, therefore, I, Charles E. Baker, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2022 to be Veterans Day, and urge all the citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. I just want to thank Corey, first for inviting me and my family to be part of this celebration. As always, thank Corey for his service both in uniform and his continued service to our veterans and wider community today. Thank you to the citizens of our town, state, and country who came out this week and exercised their right to vote in this democracy that so many have fought and sacrificed to preserve. New veterans are created every day. And then there are future veterans, and those veterans who have yet to put the uniform on. But like my 17-year-old nephew, are called from somewhere deep inside, despite the wishes of others like my sister, that they take a more traditional path. We should take pause and remember that 1% of our country puts the uniform on. The call to action is for us to stop dividing this democracy at home that we ask our military members to protect from abroad, so we may continue to enjoy our way of life free of tyranny. We all have far more in common than not in common. What we've lost and what we owe today's veterans, tomorrow's veterans, and our future veterans is time. Take the time to sit down and get to know each other, a return to civil discourse, and away from the sound bites and fear of the unknown. Military members travel throughout the world and quickly realize that human differences are minuscule when compared to things that we share in common. And the world is becoming smaller every day. Let's respect the way of life our veterans have sacrificed to preserve by being curious, not judgmental. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Jamie. Very well said. So, as I'm sure we're all aware by now, from what we've just heard, Veterans Day is a day that we come together as a community to celebrate and thank those that have served in our military. And while on the grand scale, our veterans make up just a small portion of the population, we all know at least one veteran. Whether it be a parent, spouse, grandparent, child, neighbor, or coworker, we're all in some way connected to at least one veteran. So today, I urge you to please make an effort to ask that veteran in your life a little bit about their experience and hear a story they may have to share. What better day than Veterans Day to hear a little bit about probably one of the most life-changing experiences they've had. And it only takes a few moments. In honoring our living veterans, we must not forget those who have gone before us. So therefore, I'd like to ask you to please join me in a moment of silence, followed by taps played by our Oliver Ames High School Band. Please stand if you're able to. Thank you. The flyover was not planned, but that was outstanding. Let's hear it for our buglers and trumpet players. I'd now like to welcome our state representative, Carol Doherty, to share some remarks.
Thank you very much, Corey. I am always in awe of the hard work that you put into the work that you do on behalf of veterans across the entire community. You are steadfast in your belief that they deserve the best that the town of Easton has to offer. So I thank you. Yeah, I especially appreciate coming to Easton always. And while I represent the entire of the 3rd Bristol District, I always feel as if I am embraced by this community. Regardless of whether or not you live in a precinct that I represent, I am here for everyone in the town of Easton. I want to especially recognize Stan Siegel, our parade marshal, a Korean War veteran. I am honored, Stan, to be in your presence. Thank you very much for your service. And, of course, joining Reverend Polk and my colleagues in government as well, all of the members of the community who are here. Congratulations to our band. I remember last time we gathered that there was COVID that had spread like wildfire among the band members, and so we were without their fine fine music. And I just want to say, before I launch into my remarks, these are not my remarks, by the way. I mean, they're my remarks, but at any rate, I think that this day is especially, of course, for the veterans, but for the young people who are here, for the children particularly. And I listened to them sing God Bless America, and I thought, I'm following along with their cadence, not my own, because they are our future. This is why we celebrate Veterans Day. We memorialize the people that fought and died for us and who are still here that we celebrate, and lest we forget. It is so important and so critical that our children are part of these events. So thank you very much, children, for being here. So because Election Day, recently passed, must be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday of the month of November, it is merely coincidental that this year, Veterans Day, comes closely on the heels of the 2022 midterm elections. An election that I personally feel that has had democracy in its crosshairs all across our nation. Our democratic ideals, the democracy that you, veterans, so valiantly fought to preserve and for which so many died, has been at stake. So far, democracy has prevailed. Easton has a long and proud history of citizens who, when it came, answered our nation's call. At the outset of the Second World War, Easton had a population of fewer than 6,000 persons. Of that 6,000, the Easton World War II monument bears the name of 500 sons and daughters of our community who put their lives on hold to defend freedom, democracy, and humanity in its most desperate hour. But unfortunately, in 2022, many veterans have been left behind. According to the American Legion, veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces are 57% more likely to die by suicide than their fellow Americans who did not serve. And though veterans comprise 7% of the American population, they represent 11% of our nation's homeless population. We can do better. We must do better. And though Veterans Day gives us the chance to thank our veterans for their devoted service to our country, it also gives us a chance to reaffirm our commitment to them. There are those who lament what they consider to be the high cost of programs that help our veterans. I say there is no cost too great for our veterans. Our veterans who have given their all and then some in the service of our country. We must do everything that we can to provide the tools and resources they need to transition back to civilian life and ensure that they are able to achieve the American dream that they have fought so hard to preserve. So, to all of our veterans assembled here today, and those who could not join us, I say with the utmost humility and gratitude, thank you for your service. Our nation owes you a debt it can never fully repay, and it is the duty of each citizen not to squander the inheritance granted them by generations of American veterans past and present. The idea of America is not guaranteed. It requires continual sacrifice, from Lexington Green to the fields of Gettysburg and Antietam, to the Ardennes Forest, to the sands of the Middle East. Our American veterans have given their utmost to protect the ideals of our country: freedom, democracy, self-government, and the rule of law. Let us endeavor to do ours. God bless you. God bless these United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Rep. Doherty. I'd now like to welcome our town historian, Ed Hands, to discuss the extensive history of military service in the town of Easton.
That could be a 2-hour speech. I promise I'm not going to do that. What I would like to talk about today is the fact that in 1954, Armistice Day, a day to celebrate the end of World War I, was changed to Veterans Day, making it a day to celebrate all veterans that were honorably discharged from service. And it's really hard to get a handle on all the people who have served over the years. I oftentimes talk about World War II, and you can see there are plenty of people back here to talk about. Over 600 people served. And then there are dozens of people whose names are on the memorials on the outside here. But how do you encompass all of these people into one small speech? And I think, thanks to Corey, we're going to be doing that this year. Back in 2001, the folks up at the high school decided to honor World War II veterans who left the school early in order to serve in World War II and never graduated. So in 2001, we graduated them, and this coming year, we're going to be putting up a plaque at the school so everybody will know their names. There were 33 people on that list, 14 from the Navy, 13 from the Army, 2 from the Marine Corps, and 4 from the Army Air Corps, including one woman, Mary Travers. Of that 33, one person made the supreme sacrifice. That was Anthony Pontes. His memorial sign is right behind you over here. He lived right down the street at 46 Pond Street, which is the original Ames house in Easton, believe it or not. Anthony was killed in action in France after receiving a Purple Heart for a wound and gallantry for his service in Italy. There were a number of other people, 32 as a matter of fact, and I'm going to focus on one. That's Paul Flinkstrom. Paul was born here in 1924. His dad was an immigrant to the United States from Norway. His mom was born here in Massachusetts. And he enlisted before he was draft eligible. Of that 33, a number of boys like me would have been drafted because they turned 18 before the end of their senior school year. But he registered for the draft the day, believe it or not, after he returned home, because it was required. He had served for 3 years and then registered for the draft. He left for naval training in September of 1942, and he became a submariner, taking the USS Dace from New London, Connecticut to the Pacific Theater on its maiden run, and then serving most of his time on the USS Cerro. The Cerro sank 18,000 tons worth of Japanese shipping, which is what we all think that submarines were meant to do during the war. That's what shows up in all the TV shows. But believe it or not, the Cerro also did things like landing commandos and supplies behind enemy lines in the Philippines and serving in the Japanese theater, some people say even as far as Tokyo Bay, on picket duty to watch for patrol boats and also to pick up airmen who had crashed. So they had an extensive service before Paul returned home in 1945. And that's just an indication of what these 32 people did. They served all over the world, in the European theater, in the Pacific theater, in the air. Mary Travers was a nurse, and their service was pretty typical. Sometimes not so special. They served, but some of them were company clerks. And never saw combat. But the most important thing is that they put in their service time and returned home. And this is the best thing about veterans, with an increased sense of community and a desire to serve. So many of the people who you would recognize their names, they're your grandparents or my parents' generation. So I think it's a wonderful thing that we're going to be honoring them this year, which only leaves 2 groups of veterans who have not received any accolades as far as memorials go. If you stop and think about it, we have the World War II Memorial, we have Vietnam and Korea here. World War I is at the top of the hill in that beautiful memorial. And then the Civil War Memorial is the most photographed memorial in town, and now is fully available for you to take a look at again after being hidden away for most of the summer. But there are 2 groups that have no honor, and surprisingly, despite the fact that for the Civil War, World War I, and all the wars since, up until the most recent series of wars, there were draftees. All of these people in these 2 groups were volunteers. They volunteered to serve. And that's what's different about today's veterans. They're all volunteers. 1% of the population, surely, but the United States' responsibility since the end of the Vietnam War has expanded worldwide. So when I was a teacher, I had students that were serving all over the world, in Korea, in active combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. And, you know, they go and do their service, and then they come home. We have no memorial for them yet, and I've had students that have been home for 20 years that fought in Operation Desert Storm. And I think maybe it's time we put up a memorial for them. And then the last group that has no memorial, and this is the group that I'm most interested in because our 300th birthday is coming up, and the 250th birthday of the United States is coming up, and we have no memorial anywhere in town for the veterans of the Revolutionary War, the people who created the United States of America. And I think it's about time that that happens. So hopefully in the next few years we can get that done. Thank God for veterans, because not only do they save our country in time of war, but they serve our country upon their return. So thank you for your service. God bless America.
You took my notes.
Your notes and my notes, so good luck with that.
I'll read Ed's notes. Thank you, Mr. Hands. That was wonderful. Now I'd like you to turn your attention to the Oliver Ames High School Band as they play a selection. truly, it's not a parade without the band, so we thank you so much for being here. Now I'd like to welcome VFW Post 2547 Commander Steve Shaw to share his remarks.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us here today, and thank you for thinking of the veterans. Just to jump back to Armistice Day, our hall down the street here was named after somebody that died over there in World War I, and we named the place after him 90 years ago. We've been where we are now for 60 years. And in those 60 years, the VFW, along with organizations like American Legion, we've raised money for all these memorials, thousands and thousands of dollars of scholarships. The VFW and the American Legion both have been part of the community here for a long time. So I really appreciate you coming here today. But what I really want to talk to you about is patriotism and veterans. I put 30-something years in the service. All I know is veterans. I didn't like all of them, but I know them. And they all had one sense, that we all had one sense that we loved this country, or we loved what we stood for. And it started right here with the Scouts, in the homes, with the Boy Scouts, the bands. You were part of a community, and you loved that community. And so when they brought that to the service, without even thinking about it, people started having a lot of things in common. They realized that we got along pretty well. But that's where that sense of pride comes to for a lot of soldiers. It starts right here in your home, and hometowns like this. There's a lot of hometowns that are not like this hometown. I'm sure you know some of them. And, you know, people use the services to escape from where they're at, as opposed to feeling they want to serve their country. But it turns around, and you can take pride in everything that they do. And it's just countless. As we've had hundreds here in Easton over the years have served. We couldn't name them all. But I just want to thank everybody here for having us. I'd also like to point out that after today, you can stop down in the VFW American Legion, and there's a little dinner there or something if you want. And this Thanksgiving, I want to invite any veteran plus one to the VFW for a Thanksgiving dinner, free Thanksgiving dinner. We just would like to get a head count. If you're going to bring somebody, just let us know, but it's entirely free because we want to thank our veterans. It doesn't have to be a veteran of foreign war, it just has to be a veteran. And I appreciate you having us here today and the support that you show us. Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to welcome Commander Teresa Padico Poole of the American Legion Post 7.
Thank you, Steve. That was very nicely said. I want to thank everyone for coming to our Veterans Day parade today. We had a nice showing, and let us continue to celebrate veterans who have served to maintain our freedoms, but let us not forget the 80 Easton veterans who were lost in service to our country. And with that, I'd like to add that Post 7 is having our November Poppy Drive. We have two Poppy Drives. One is by mail, and I have flyers that I've asked to be passed out. I don't know if you got one, but if you didn't, I'll make sure you get one. And that would be by mail, a donation of any amount. You will get a thank you card along with a poppy in a plastic sleeve and the copy of the poem In Flanders Field. And In Flanders Field is a very well-said poem that resonates with many veterans. We're also having our Poppy Drive, which was originally scheduled for tomorrow, but because of the weather forecast for tomorrow with the high winds and rain, we rescheduled it to next Saturday, November 19th. We'll be at the Northeastern Village Shops alongside the Dunkin' Donuts, and you can make a donation of any amount and receive a poppy in memory of a loved one. So I hope to see you there. And again, I want to thank you for coming today. Be well and keep well.
Thank you, Commander. Now, I have the great honor of introducing this year's Parade Marshal, Stan Siegel, U.S. Army atomic veteran of the Korean War era. Stan Siegel was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, 90 years ago. In his senior year of college, he attended the University of Alaska and served in the Army Ready Reserve active status in its intelligence unit. After graduation, he received an honorable discharge and returned home to Brooklyn, where he was immediately called to active service during the Korean War, where he completed basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. Stan graduated as a military police officer and was assigned to the 516th Military Police Detachment, which was tasked with providing security services during nuclear detonation testing as a part of Operation Castle in Eniwetok Atoll in the South Pacific. He was then transferred to Fort Rucker, Alabama, the Army Air School, and was later honorably discharged from active duty in 1954. After his service, Stan returned home and started his own agency in marketing and advertising, the Sigma Group, in Norwalk, Connecticut. Stan is also a former executive director of the East Norwalk Association Library. After the unfortunate passing of his wife Linda in 2016, he moved to Easton in 2017, where his son Michael was living. Michael, sitting directly to his left, from your view, is recently retired after 20 years of military service and is the Director of Military Connected Services at Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston. Stan stays involved and also volunteers with the Easton Veteran Service Office to help fellow veterans preserve their memories and stories into a full-color memoir with pictures, free of charge, through our Memories program. And he plans to provide services through a newly announced tile wall project that will also help veterans memorialize their service. Please contact me at Frothingham Hall to find out more about those two projects. But we're here today with Stan as our parade Grand Marshal, and I'd like Stan to share a few words with us. So let's hear a round of applause for Stan Siegel.
Yeah, you put it on the stand. We'll stand.
Stand? Okay.
Thank you, Corey. I'm honored to have been asked to serve as Grand Marshal of Easton's Veterans Day celebration. Although my own military service qualifies me as a veteran, it pales in comparison to the countless other men and women who also bear the title of veteran, especially Easton veterans. As a virtual newcomer to Easton, I'd be remiss if I didn't honor my own local veteran, my son Michael, who, as Corey so very kindly mentioned, suggested I move here from Connecticut just 6 years ago, and now serves as the first Director of Military Connected Services at Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston. Before joining Wentworth, Michael served for 6 years as Director of Military and Veteran Student Services at Bridgewater State University, managing the daily operations at the Veterans Center, and created and implemented programs and outreach strategies for active military veterans and their dependents. Prior to Bridgewater, he was a Military Veteran Services counselor at Massasoit Community College. As to his veteran qualifications, he served in the U.S. Army and Army National Guard for 21 years before retiring in 2014. As a Sergeant First Class, his assignments included duties as an infantry platoon sergeant in Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, a field artillery operator in Operation Joint Guard in Bosnia, and as an instructor at the Maneuver Center of Excellence at Fort Benning, Georgia. And two, I'd be remiss if I didn't include a bit about Corey O'Hannon, who serves as Easton's Veteran Services Officer since 2018, and now also as Deputy Director of Health and Community Services. Prior to his present responsibility, Corey was with the Veterans Center at Bridgewater State University and had served 6 years in the Air Force here in the United States as well as in South Korea and Guam. That's more than enough about me and my veterans. We're here today to honor all our military service veterans. Those of you here, those of you yet to be veterans, and sadly, those men and women who served and are no longer with us. So welcome to today's ceremony. Veterans, families, and friends, I thank you for attending. I'm humbled to be speaking to you on such an important occasion, which in 1954, as was mentioned earlier, Congress passed a bill that President Eisenhower signed, proclaiming November 11, which was originally Armistice Day, as Veterans Day, quote, established to honor our service members and to remember their sacrifices they have made and the courage it takes to defend our country, end quote. Thinking of the heroes who join us in this group today and those who are here only in spirit, I can't help but feel awed by the enormity of what you have endured. I stand in the midst, or actually sit in the midst of the patriots and the family and friends of those who have nobly served. I would like to ask the service members and veterans who are here to raise your hands. Thank you. Thank you for answering the call to duty. You have made our armed forces the most respected in the world. Now I'd like to ask the family members of any service member to raise their hands. Thank you. We know you have lived through difficult times and often taken the heavy load to keep the home fires burning. Thank you for what you've done. The service members we honor today come from all walks of life, but they shared several fundamental qualities. They possess courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty, and integrity, all the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. Many of them didn't ask to leave their homes to fight on distant battlefields. Many didn't even volunteer. They didn't go to war because they loved fighting. They joined or were called to be part of something bigger than themselves. Ordinary people who responded in extraordinary ways in extreme times, answering the call to protect our nation, which has given them, us, so very much. Since the first shots at Lexington and Concord were fired just a little more than 40 miles from here, on April 19, 1775, where our Revolutionary War began, American men and women have been answering the nation's call to duty. Millions of Americans have fought and died on battlefields here and abroad to defend our freedoms and way of life. Today, our troops continue to make the ultimate sacrifices, and even as we lose troops, more Americans step forward to say, "I'm ready to serve." They follow in the footsteps of generations of fine Americans. As time went on, we engaged in further conflicts during World War II in Korea. Veterans groups labored for a change. Rather than honoring the armistice and only those who served in World War I, the holiday would now honor all veterans from every war and conflict the United States has encountered. We've honored our troops and their service and sacrifice ever since. We have awarded medals to many servicemen and women, added their names to monuments and named buildings for them to honor them for their bravery. But nothing can ever replace the hole left behind by a fallen service member, and no number of medals and ribbons can comfort the ones left behind. Today, people throughout the country will gather together to remember, to honor, and pay gratitude to those who have served our country. Our gathering is just one small spark in the flame of pride that burns across the nation today and every day. It's not a lot, but it's one small way we can honor those who have served so that we continue to live in freedom. Thank you for attending today. God bless you and your families. God bless our troops, and God bless America.
Outstanding, Stan. Thank you so much for being here today. And I thank you all for being here as well. I just have one more thing I'd like to mention to Stan here, is that I was given this flag here by my friend Chris Mills, who runs Easton Shoveltown Flag Company. And every day in the month of November, they have an initiative where they give a free flag like this to a veteran. And these are handmade from reclaimed wood. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and he would like you to have it as a token of appreciation to your service. All right. For our last speaker, I'd like to invite Select Board Chair Dottie Fulgenetti to come share a few words with us.
Thank you. In listening to your comments, Mr. Siegel, I recognize that you talked about your son and Corey, other veterans, the community, everybody except yourself, and that's selflessness for those who serve, and I just want to recognize that, and thank you for your service. So in thinking about what to speak about today, in honoring our veterans that are serving and that have served in the past, I was thinking about the war in Ukraine and how it was on TV so much, and imagining what it would be like to be there and all of a sudden have to flee your neighborhood and your home, or to see your neighborhood and your community destroyed, to be maybe separated from your family, and what that means. And it's still happening, but it's not on TV anymore. So I find myself purposely trying to think about that and think about, you know, how that would impact us, and how lucky we are to not have to experience that, how lucky we are to be able to vote and not be afraid to vote, or to be able to access medical care and not be afraid to do that, to not have to take your kids and flee to another country for your safety. And that is all because of our veterans and the people that serve us in active duty, and the people that come back and serve their communities, like Jamie, like Corey. We're really grateful for them. And my own son that serves in the Navy, he's down in Virginia in his 5th year as a nuclear mechanic on the USS Eisenhower. And my dad that was also in the Navy, serving on the USS Boston. It means a lot to me personally to see the community come out like this every year, and think we remember it especially on Veterans Day, but so many of our organizations remember our veterans all the time. So look around for those organizations, look around for those people, and think about this every day and value our freedom and democracy, and thank you especially to our veterans that make that happen.
Thank you, Dottie. Now, to close us out, I'd like to introduce Ann DeSanto to sing a selection for us.
Now that we're revved up, if you're able at this time, please join in the singing of God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
All right, everyone. That'll do it for today. I just want to close by just saying I feel so fortunate to have, as a part of my job, to be able to preside over our patriotic ceremonies. And we appreciate your observance and your time coming out and your patience. It's such a nice show of support. So thank you to all of you. Lastly, I just want to tell everyone, please join us at 61 Rockland Street at the VFW. We will have some food there. I heard something about some peppers and onions, so please get out there and help us eat this food that we have. And thank you to the DPW, ECAT, police, fire, everyone who came out here to support us. Thank you all.